Much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, an international assault on the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. The greenback under siege as other countries hope to knock it from its position as the #1 currency in the world.
Is King Dollar going to be tossed off of its throne?
The world has become too dependent on the U.S. dollar.
Analysts have been warning of the dollar's impending doom.
We'll hear reactions from analysts about the future of the dollar. The 2024 presidential election heating up, with former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie now in the race, taking shots at the candidate he supported in the past.
The reason I'm going after Trump is twofold. One, he deserves it. And two, it's the way to win.
And former Vice President Mike Pence now entering the race today as well. The aftermath of that major dam collapse in Ukraine, amid the fighting with Russia, flooding villages, putting crops in danger, and supplies of drinking water at risk.
The destruction of the Kakhovka Dam today puts thousands of civilians at risk and causes severe environmental damage. This is an outrageous act which demonstrates once again the brutality of Russia's war in Ukraine.
And a new movie tells the true story of a real-life hero, former Homeland Security Special Agent Tim Ballard, who rescues children from sex trafficking.
This is not just entertainment, or this is not just a job. This is truly a mission and a movement.
Those stories and more today on CBN Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
We begin this half hour with the international assault on the U.S. dollar. The greenback is king when it comes to global financial transactions. Yet there is talk of the dollar's impending doom as some countries are trying to knock it off its throne and hurt America's financial standing in the world. Some nations are already moving away from using the dollar for international business. Del Hurd explains why and what the dethroning of the dollar could mean for your pocketbook.
There's been plenty of talk lately that the U.S. dollar could lose its reserve currency status.
Is King Dollar going to be tossed off of its throne?
The world has become too dependent on the U.S. dollar.
Analysts have been warning of the dollar's impending doom.
A growing number of nations are turning away from the greenback as a payment currency, and that has led to fears that the U.S. could lose its position as the world's top reserve currency. Reserve currencies are held in large quantities by central banks in other nations for financial stability and are used in international trade. It's been a big advantage for the U.S. economy. For instance, the federal government can pay for any foreign expenditures by simply printing more money. If the dollar were dethroned as the world's reserve currency, some have warned that we would see soaring inflation and a catastrophic drop in our standard of living. Other economists, however, believe the effect would not nearly be that dramatic.
Experts not only fail to agree on whether the dollar is doomed to lose its reserve currency status, they also differ on what the economic fallout would be if it did.
Pete Earle at the American Institute for Economic Research is one of many economists who say there is no short-term threat to the dollar's reserve currency status because there just aren't better options.
The Federal Reserve has made a lot of mistakes, and certainly they debauched the value of the dollar. But in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. The Fed is still very much the gold standard in monetary policy.
And he says there is no reason to be worried that the dollar will be replaced by the Chinese yuan.
The odds that the Chinese renminbi or yuan will take the dollar's place are at present slim to none.
The reason is China won't do what it takes to become a top reserve currency. It won't allow the yuan's value to float, but pegs it to the dollar. And its capital markets are largely closed to investors. The U.S. has the deepest capital markets in the world.
So if you want to be a reserve currency, so-called, you need a bond market. You need a securities market, a big one. And you need a lot of other features, a network of dealers, underwriters, settlement, clearance, custodians, depositories, hedging options, repo, futures, options, et cetera. And above all, you need the rule of law. Who trusts the Chinese? Nobody. Who trusts the Russians, really? Well, nobody.
Talk of a BRICS currency involving Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is still largely just talk. America's share of the reserve currency market has fallen, but mostly because of the creation of the euro. If the dollar were replaced as the world's reserve currency, your money would be worth less. Foreign goods would cost more, inflation would increase, and the U.S. government would have to rein in its runaway spending because fewer nations would be buying U.S. treasuries and financing our huge federal debt. Nations currently ditching the dollar as a payment currency is a more pressing issue. Some nations are dropping the dollar simply to cut out the middleman. They want to use their own currency when trading. Others are afraid of a weaponized dollar after the U.S. froze hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian reserves because of its invasion of Ukraine. Others want to see America's economic dominance weakened. This is a potential near-term threat to the dollar's value, but most economists say that any threat to the dollar's reserve currency status is many years, if not decades, away. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Now to the race for the White House, which is getting increasingly crowded after two new Republican candidates have already jumped into the Republican presidential primary just so far this week, with another one expected today. One of those new candidates, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. He went on the attack against former President Donald Trump at his first town hall last night as a presidential hopeful. CBN's Brody Carter has our report.
A lonely, self-consumed, self-serving mirror hog is not a leader.
Former New Jersey Governor and federal prosecutor Chris Christie wasted no time going after former President Donald Trump, calling him, quote, a bitter, angry man, and that his time in office was a failure.
Beware of the leader in this country who you have handed leadership to, who has never made a mistake, who has never done anything wrong, who when something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, and who has never lost.
Christie's entrance comes ahead of the former vice president's announcement Wednesday. Mike Pence making it official by releasing a campaign video this morning.
Today, our party and our country need a leader that'll appeal, as Lincoln said, to the better angels of our nature.
And North Dakota's Governor Doug Burgum will likely cast his bid Wednesday. These contenders will enter a crowded field, including Trump's former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. By week's end, an expected 12 candidates will be fighting for the Republican ticket. With Trump leading the field, his strongest rival is DeSantis, who's already on the campaign trail criticizing his policies.
Fauciism was destructive. Fauciism should have never happened.
As Republicans find their footing with the American people, Trump is fighting back, bashing opponents on Truth Social, pointing to poll numbers and a, quote, lack of personality against Ron DeSantis, and this gimmick, mocking Christie's weight after his announcement Tuesday.
And I wondered what our choice was going to be. Were we going to be small, or were we going to be big?
As the primary field expands, Republican leaders not in the running, like New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, are encouraging those who don't have a shot against Trump to drop out.
There could be 12 people that get in. The key, the discipline, is getting out. The discipline is come November, late December. If you're sitting in low, single digits, get your butt out of the race. Let's narrow this thing down to 2 or 3 candidates and really figure out where the party's going to go.
New Republican National Committee debate rules could limit the GOP primary field, establishing a key fundraising threshold, while requiring candidates to pledge support for the eventual party nominee. The first debate is scheduled for August 23rd. Brody Carter, CBN News.
2 people are dead after another tragic school shooting, this time in Richmond, Virginia. A total of 7 people were shot after a high school graduation ceremony had just ended, causing hundreds of attendees to flee in panic, weep and clutch their children. The scene is described as chaos. The 2 people killed were a father and a son. A family member telling ABC News they were 18-year-old Sean Jackson and his father, Renzo Smith. A 19-year-old suspect tried to escape on foot, but police arrested, and that suspect will be charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Police believe the suspect knew at least one of the victims. The superintendent and mayor speaking out after that tragic event.
Tired of seeing people get shot, our kids get shot, and I beg of the entire community to stop.
A child should be able to go to their graduation and walk out their graduation and enjoy the accomplishment with their friends and their families. It's nothing sacred any longer.
Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, a strong supporter of gun rights, said after the shooting the problem isn't guns, it's criminals, saying we have to figure out what's going on in our communities. Coming up, villages flooded, crops in danger, and supplies of drinking water at risk after a major dam collapsed in southern Ukraine amid the fighting with Russia. We're going to have that story for you when we come back.
Watch breaking news. Exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
A major dam collapsed in Ukraine amid the fighting in the war with Russia, threatening villages, crops, and drinking water. The disaster comes as Ukraine's long-awaited spring counteroffensive could be underway, although no formal announcement has been made. Even the Russians are admitting Ukraine is gaining ground. CBN's Wendy Griffith has our report, beginning with a look at what happened after that dam gave way.
Evacuations are underway after the wall of a major dam that Moscow controls collapsed following an explosion. The result? Massive flooding now endangering Europe's largest nuclear power plant and threatening drinking water. Homes, streets, and businesses flooded downstream as emergency crews raced to check cooling systems at the power plant, which U.S. officials say appears to be safe.
Is that the damage to the Ukrainian people and to the region will be significant. Its destruction could very well have a devastating impact on Ukraine's energy security.
Ukraine is accusing Russian forces of blowing up the dam and hydroelectric power station, while Russia blames Ukrainian military strikes in the area.
The destruction of the Kakhovka Dam today puts thousands of civilians at risk and causes severe environmental damage. This is an outrageous act which demonstrates once again the brutality of Russia's war in Ukraine.
The dam break added a stunning new dimension to Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Now in its 16th month, it's believed Ukrainian troops are moving forward with a long-anticipated counteroffensive. The Ukrainian army claimed to be gaining ground Monday along a wide front in the Bakhmut area, the epicenter of the fighting, and Russia admitting the spring advance may have begun as well. Meanwhile, the dam disaster could hinder Ukraine's counteroffensive in the south and complicate the advance of its forces. In the short term, some military experts say it's a win for Russia, at least until the water subsides. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Still ahead, here at home, a highly rated movie called The Sound of Freedom tells the true story of Tim Ballard, who rescues children from sex trafficking. We're going to bring you a Studio 5 conversation with the real-life hero behind the film right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The true hero story of Tim Ballard is being told in the film The Sound of Freedom. It stars Jim Caviezel. Ballard rescues children from sex trafficking. It's a fight that actually began while he was working as a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security. I caught up with him recently in Orlando, where his film was being screened. Take me back, I guess, to that period of your life. What was going through your heart as this is all unfolding?
Nobody was talking about human trafficking, and I would tell people these stories of the things I was coming across, and no one believed me.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim.
As soon as I lay down, all I see are those kids' faces.
And it was like, these are real kids. And really, it was my wife. In the second week of December of 2013, she grabbed me by the collars and she said, "I will not let you jeopardize my salvation," she said.
You quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
And in that moment, I mentioned I felt lonely before. I felt not lonely anymore. That's when I really put it into perspective. You're right. Why are we here on this earth? And then we jumped in, and the operation, as the movie depicts, was extremely successful. In fact, there's a documentary that covers the operation, and you'll see that it was actually bigger than what Sound of Freedom was able to even show.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
Jim Caviezel portrays you in the film. Your thoughts seeing him on screen as you for the first time?
Well, first, it's really bizarre, first of all, to watch.
It's all rebel territory. No one goes in. Not the army, not the police, not us.
I never thought this movie was going to be made because from concept to screen, I think I read 5% make it to the big screen, right? So when they were talking to me about it, these producers, I thought, well, it's not going to happen. But a few years into their endeavor, I remember they showed up in, I believe it was December of 2017, and they said, "Hey, we're going to film this summer. And we need to pick someone to play you." And, they said, "You don't get to choose, but you can give input." And right out of the gate, I knew who I wanted. So if this is a real question, the answer is Jim Caviezel. I know Jim Caviezel loves Jesus, and that's the only real requirement I have.
There's no Marine unit coming.
You're on your own. They asked him, and he had a really personal experience himself with human trafficking, and we didn't know about it. He jumped right in, and this is not just entertainment, or this is not just a job. This is truly a mission and a movement, and he's committed.
Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? ¿Puedes ayudarme a encontrar mi hermana?
Te lo prometo.
What's your prayer?
My prayer is that we can end this, because I don't have the capability to end this. This is slavery. This is slavery in a form that is targeting children, and it's labor slavery, it's sex slavery, it's organ harvesting, and I love to learn from history. What I can do is I try to emulate and pay homage to my heroes of the Underground Railroad. In my office I have a big picture of Harriet Tubman, and those are my heroes. Harriet Beecher Stowe has an interesting story where she doesn't know what to do, so she writes a book. And I look at that as the modern day, like a movie, right? Media. And that's what ended it. And so I see this film as almost a modern day iteration of a book, the Treks, the abolitionists, their voices, the storytellers. I hope that we can see history repeat itself to defeat a different form, but every bit a form of slavery.
Over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. If we do nothing, someday it's going to reach the likes of you. What if this was your daughter?
The Sound of Freedom is in theaters on the 4th of July. Today, Ballard is the founder and CEO of Operation Underground Railroad, which continues to rescue children from the sex trafficking trade. Also this week on Studio 5, an exclusive preview of a theatrical film called The Hiding Place. It's a stage play adaptation of the heroic true story of Corrie Ten Boom and her family. They're known for their efforts to help Jewish refugees during World War II. The original play was filmed live for a cinema audience in Nashville, and we've got the exclusive first look at the trailer. There you see, The Hiding Place will be in select theaters on August 3rd and August 5th. Also tonight on Studio 5, Devon Franklin has a new movie. It's called Flamin' Hot. Major has some new music, and fans have newly crowned some of their favorite Christian artists with awards. We'll have all of that for you on this week's episode of Studio 5. You can catch it on the CBN News Channel tonight at 8:30 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or tune in to YouTube. We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Stay connected with CBN News all day across our platforms.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
Welcome back. Time now for your Wednesday word. And today that word is suddenly. You've prayed, you fasted, and you have waited. Well, don't grow weary. God's promise is indeed true, and it will often come suddenly. So you keep believing, keep trusting, keep having faith. God cannot fail, and God cannot lie. With that word, I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here, same time tomorrow.